Welcome to Payback with Silas. Every day, a new story, lies, betrayal, payback. Let's begin.
They looked at me like I was just furniture. Functional. Familiar. Replaceable. That morning, I walked into Westbrook Analytics like I had for the past 17 years. Same dark roast from the corner place, same keycard swipe at the north entrance, same quiet nod to Tony at security. But I knew something was off the second I stepped into the elevator. The silence. The eyes that wouldn't meet mine. The junior project manager, some kid who still kept his resume folded in his wallet, actually turned around to take the stairs when he saw me get in. I wasn't paranoid. I'd seen too much, done too much, built too much to mistake fear for coincidence. By 10:14 a.m., I was in the glass office of Braxton Lyle, the newly anointed CEO from God knows where. Some fast-rising visionary who got handed the job because he made a name for himself gutting 2 startups and flipping them like foreclosed homes. I'd only spoken to him twice before that day. Both times he smiled with his teeth but not his eyes. He gestured to the chair across from him, like I was a guest in a place I had built. "Ford," he said. "No." "Mr. Wexler." "No." "Alex." "Just Ford," like I was a piece of equipment. "We're making some aggressive moves, restructuring toward a leaner model. Your department, enterprise integration, no longer aligns with our direction. We're sunsetting it. Effective immediately." I didn't speak. He went on, but I stopped hearing him. Something about severance. Something about honoring my tenure. My ears were ringing, not with anger, but with a kind of sharp, glacial clarity. I realized, in that moment, that none of it mattered. I had turned a 3-person sub-team in a dark back office into the most consistent profit generator in the company. I created the methodology that half the company now uses as gospel. And they were erasing me with a sentence. Sunsetting me. "Thank you for your service," he finished, with that smile again, the kind people wear at funerals when they're thinking about lunch. I stood. Adjusted my cuffs. Looked him in the eye. "You're making a mistake," I said. Braxton leaned back, his mouth already forming whatever buzzword-laced justification he had ready. I didn't wait to hear it. I packed my things in silence. A few photos, a couple of notebooks. No drama. Just nods. Tight-lipped looks from the people I had mentored, protected, fought for when corporate tried to cut corners. I walked out of that building carrying a box and my pride. And strangely, I didn't feel broken. I felt free. But what I didn't know then, what they didn't know, was that every file, every formula, every system they built their empire on was in my head. And without me, they were heading straight for a crash. The first day after I left, the silence was so complete, I thought something was wrong with my phone. No calls. No texts. No LinkedIn messages. Nothing. I sat at my kitchen table in Tacoma Park, sipping coffee stronger than it needed to be, watching the light creep across the hardwood floor. For the first time in almost 2 decades, I had nowhere to be at 8 a.m. No daily brief. No integration review. No calendar stacked with back-to-backs and marginless 15-minute touch bases. It was jarring. But also clean. Like the moment right after you pull a knife out of a wound, there's pain, yes, but also a strange relief. By day 2, I started sorting through old notes. Not out of spite, out of habit. I had binders, notebooks, handwritten diagrams from back when we were still coding out the early diagnostic framework by hand. I found one sketch I'd made on a napkin at a diner in Richmond during a business trip in '09. That napkin became the foundation for their entire client onboarding module. Funny how quickly they forget. On day 3, around 2 p.m., I got the first message. Subject: quick question on the Central Ops toolset. It was from Jordan, a mid-level integration lead. Smart kid. Big future. His email was polite, but panicked beneath the surface. "Hey Ford, hope you're enjoying some well-earned rest. Hate to bug you, but we hit a snag trying to run the automated sync you developed for the legacy clients. None of the documentation is making sense, and we're a bit stuck." I didn't respond. 5 hours later, another one. "Hi Ford, urgent. Version control override protocols." Then a call. Then 2. Then 6. By Friday, Braxton himself emailed me directly. "No assistant, no intermediaries. Ford, we've encountered some unforeseen issues related to your transition. There are critical assets that only you had full access to, and the team is requesting clarification. I'd appreciate a quick call to sort things out. We'd be happy to compensate you for your time." Compensate me? They tried to amputate the brain of the system and expected the body to keep moving. I closed my laptop. There was no anger in me. Just certainty. I wasn't going back. Because the thing is, I didn't need them. They needed me. And now they were finally starting to realize it. But I wasn't going to bail them out. Not now. Not yet. The call came on Monday morning at 7:41 a.m. sharp. I recognized the number, Corporate HQ, DC office. I let it ring. They called again at 7:46. Then a different number at 8:02. Then came the voicemail, Braxton's voice, this time not so polished. "Ford, it's Braxton Lyle. Look, we clearly underestimated the degree of centralization in your systems. It's more intricate than we were briefed. I'd like to formally invite you to consult, at a premium rate, of course. Let's reconnect." He said premium, like it was a gift. Like throwing cash at the problem would fix what they'd broken. I didn't delete the voicemail. I just archived it, like an artifact from a failed expedition. That afternoon, I got a text from Catherine Moreno, VP of Ops. One of the few people at Westbrook who always spoke with integrity, even when the building was burning around her. "Ford. Not my place, but it's chaos here. They have no clue what they're doing. Everything's unraveling. If you come back even as a contractor, I'll personally make sure they treat you with the respect you've earned." I sat with that one longer. Catherine had always played fair. But this wasn't about respect anymore. This was about what happens when you remove the architect and expect the walls to hold. They were beginning to realize that all those systems, the documentation, the logic trees and predictive modules, they weren't built to be plug and play. They were built by me, for me to run. Not because I was hoarding knowledge, because no one else cared enough to understand it on the same level. When we integrated McFarland Systems in 2016, I spent 73 nights mapping every compatibility failure manually. When we built out the predictive model for enterprise churn, I tested it against live client data, one record at a time. When the India office nearly collapsed in 2020, I rerouted the workflow through a system no one knew existed because I wrote it myself on a weekend. This wasn't about ego. This was personal infrastructure. And now they were trying to rebuild it using screenshots and Slack threads. I didn't answer Catherine. Instead, I went into my garage. There, stacked in 2 old banker's boxes, were my original files, labeled by hand, color-coded. Notes. Blueprints. Workflows. Fail-safes. The real operating system behind Westbrook Analytics. They didn't know I still had it all. They thought firing me would be the end of the story. They were wrong. Because I wasn't done building, I just wasn't building for them anymore. I started with a whiteboard. One of those big, ugly ones with old expo stains on the corners. Pulled it out of the attic, wiped it down, propped it against the garage wall next to the shelves full of paint cans and camping gear I hadn't touched in years. At the top, I wrote one word in red marker. Structure. All caps. Underlined twice. That's what Westbrook lost the second they let me go, and what every mid-size enterprise in the region was starving for without knowing how to ask. I didn't want revenge. I wanted precision. And I had it. I mapped everything out over 2 days, the gaps in the industry, the recurring pain points I'd seen at every integration table, the way no one ever thought about post-deployment fragility until it was too late. Then I wrote down the names of 7 people. Engineers. Analysts. One ex-client turned friend who now ran procurement at a logistics firm in Charlotte. Every single one of them had once told me, "If you ever do your own thing, call me." So I did. No pitch decks. No promises. Just straight talk. I'm building something clean. Efficient. No fluff, no middle managers in Patagonia vests. I want the best. Are you in? By the end of the week, 5 of them had said yes. The 6th asked for a week. The 7th called back the next day and said he was quitting his job. I registered the company that afternoon. Structure Analytics, LLC. Based out of a co-working space in Bethesda with walls so thin you could hear every podcast being recorded in the next room. Didn't matter. We had fire. We weren't trying to be big. We were trying to be sharp. Boutique. Surgical. Built to fix the mess left behind by bloated firms pretending to be innovators. By the 3rd week, we had our first contract. A 90-day rescue mission for a defense contractor whose legacy system was hemorrhaging data inconsistencies after a half-baked SAP rollout. They'd called Westbrook first, but Westbrook didn't know what to do without me. Funny how quickly the tide turns. Catherine texted again the night we signed the deal. "You're behind this new firm, aren't you? They're talking about you in the boardroom. Braxton's nervous." I didn't respond. I just looked at the contract, double-checked the signatures, and leaned back in my chair. I wasn't just back. I was building something they couldn't copy. Because structure wasn't made to be sold. It was made to last. Just like me. It started with a whisper. An ex-colleague, Cheryl, from compliance, messaged me on Signal late one night. Confidentially, they've lost 2 clients. Both cited systems instability. Braxton's blaming legacy workflows. Everyone knows it's your framework breaking down. I read it, locked my phone, and went back to my espresso and quarterly report. See, when I left, they thought they were cutting a cost center. They didn't realize they were cutting the spine. My systems weren't static. They required calibration. Input. Human logic layered over machine process. I never sold them a finished puzzle. I gave them a living organism. And now they were watching it bleed out on the floor, and no one could find the artery. The next week, 2 more messages. One from the India office, an old friend, Vikram, who I helped promote years ago. "Everything's failing, Ford. Ticket backlogs are off the charts. QA's working blind. They're outsourcing fixes to a third-party firm in Ohio that doesn't even know our architecture." Then, from Catherine again. "Braxton's panicking. The board's restless. Rumor is they brought in external auditors. He's trying to rebuild your system from fragments." I almost felt sorry for him. Almost. You can't replicate ownership. You can copy code. You can mimic processes. But you can't fake care. I didn't build Westbrook's framework out of obligation. I built it because it had my name on it. And now they were realizing they could fire the man, but not the mind. 3 weeks into their collapse, I got a call from a name I hadn't seen in years, Russell Denning, one of Westbrook's biggest investors. He didn't waste time. "Ford, we were wrong. Full stop. I know Braxton made a play, and it backfired. We need a solution. If there's a way to bring you in, even temporarily, I can clear the path." I let him speak. I thanked him. And I said no. Because what I'd built at Structure was working. We had contracts, loyalty, autonomy, and most importantly, we had integrity. I didn't want my old office back. I didn't want their apology. I wanted them to learn that when you dismiss value because it comes without flash or ego, you eventually pay the price in full. By the end of that month, Westbrook's stock had dipped for the first time in 6 quarters. They issued a memo about unexpected technical transitions. Internally, everyone knew the truth. They lost their anchor. And I wasn't coming back. 6 months later, I was walking out of a meeting with a healthcare client in Baltimore when I saw him. Braxton Lyle. Standing in line at a coffee stand in the lobby. Wearing a different suit, but the same expression, confident, curated, slightly synthetic. But this time, the eyes were different. He saw me, hesitated, then approached like someone walking across thin ice. "Ford," he said, voice steady but lower. "Didn't expect to run into you here." I nodded. "Life's full of surprises." He offered a tight smile, not the smug kind from before. This one had tension behind it. Like he was swallowing something hard. "I owe you an apology," he said. "For how it was handled. For how I handled it." I looked at him, calm. "Handled what?" That made him pause. He gave a half laugh, like he wasn't sure if I was serious. "I suppose that's fair," he said. "You're doing well, I hear." "Very well." I said nothing. Because I didn't need to prove anything. Not anymore. Structure Analytics had tripled in size. We were turning down more work than we were accepting. Not because we wanted to be exclusive, but because I refused to let it become another machine that forgot where it came from. We didn't take VC. We didn't hire empty titles. We solved problems. I mentored my team personally. Took every new architect through the old files. Showed them the napkin sketch from Richmond, the first system map from 2008, the original logic tree built on a plane with no Wi-Fi and a Sharpa. Because legacy isn't what you leave behind when you die. It's what people carry forward while you're still here. Braxton mumbled something about staying in touch, then drifted away with his drink. I never saw him again. But 2 weeks later, Structure Analytics was contracted by a tech firm he'd recently joined as a strategic advisor. They needed our help untangling an onboarding disaster. I didn't take the meeting personally. One of my associates handled it. A woman I'd mentored. She used the same framework I designed. After the contract was signed, she texted me one sentence. "They said your name like a warning?" I smiled. Then I got back to work. Because the best revenge isn't revenge at all. It's building something better. And I had